What's going on YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. And before we get into today's video, make sure to subscribe and sack that like button like if you're Carlos Dunlap. Oh wait, speaking of Carlos Dunlap has just signed a 1-year deal up to $8 million with the Kansas City Chiefs, one of the best free agents still remaining, maybe the best remaining free agent pass rusher. Carlos Dunlap coming into KC, and this was a much needed signing by the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs are very thin at the edge rusher position on the outside part of the defensive line. They had rookie George Karlaftis and veteran Frank Clark, but after that, their guys were Mike Dana and Joshua Kando. That's a very thin defensive end group. You bring in a guy like Carlos Dunlap, and that definitely helps out. Carlos Dunlap last year had 8.5 sacks. Carlos Dunlap, I think, is going to be an instant impact on the Chiefs because, I mean, this is a team that's kind of struggled with pass rush over the last few years despite having good household names on their team. Frank Clark has underperformed ever since he got a big contract with the Kansas City Chiefs, and Chris Jones, as much as Chief fans don't like to admit it, even though he's still productive, he's not the elite force that, the Chiefs were hoping he could be after that dominant 2018 season. So bringing in a guy like Carlos Dunlap, who can give you good production at the defensive end position, is good. This makes it interesting now because if you look at that Kansas City Chiefs defensive line, you got Frank Clark on one edge, then you got Chris Jones and Derek Nunati in the inside, and then you got George Karlaftis on the right end. So where does Carlos Dunlap fit in on this defensive line? Because that means he can't play D tackle. So, he would either be a rotational guy or he would take either Frank Clark or George Karlaftis' spot. If it's me and I'm the Chiefs, I would like to see George Karlaftis and Carlos Dunlap on each end and Frank Clark be a rotational piece, because Frank Clark has just proven that he cannot be an every down defensive end. Now, if the Chiefs wanted to utilize all four of these good defensive linemen at once on a single play, I could see them putting Frank Clark on the edge, George Karlaftis inside, and he plays inside, and Chris Jones plays inside with him, and then Dunlap on the other side of Frank Clark. I could see that because George Karlaftis can play defensive tackle. It's just not what he's better at, so you wouldn't be utilizing Karlaftis to his full potential, but you would be utilizing all four players at once. So I think for the Chiefs, if Carlos Dunlap comes in, he's like their guy who's in there for 70% of the snaps. I think if you can get 6-7 sacks from him, that would be great. I don't think you're expecting him to be your leading sack player, but I think he can come in and be huge for them on certain situations on passing downs. And this, like I said, this was their most needed position still, edge rusher. And I think this team now is definitely, even though Carlos Dunlap, is past his prime, he still had a very productive year last year and had more sacks than Frank Clark did, and had almost the same amount of sacks as Chris Jones did. So, that's something to keep in mind. So comment down below what you guys think about this. I think it's a great signing for the Chiefs because they got him for cheap too. 1 year, $8 million. That's pretty cheap for a guy who potentially could become your starting defensive end and who can be productive for you. So I love this move as a Chiefs fan. But yeah, other than that, I'll see you guys next time.